we're here with the writer and director of Volience, which just played moments ago. What was the most surprising reaction you felt in the audience today?
Well, okay, so I'll just say this. First and foremost, I've always heard that UK audiences are very quiet.
Yes.
And they were very quiet watching this movie, but there was a few moments where I could hear some audible laughter, and I was like, okay. It's a little quiet. It's quieter than some of the other screenings, but I can sense that they're locked in. I could feel, so there's not there wasn't any big pops. It wasn't like a wrestling match or anything.
Yeah.
But I could tell that they were into it, and I deeply appreciated that.
I think they were. UK audiences are notoriously quiet. I understand as an American in the UK. Now, there are a lot of moments, I'm sure, in the film that got a bit of a reaction, including some incredible effects that you guys have, especially gore effects. Can you tell me a little bit about the process for making those appear on screen the way they do?
Yeah, totally. So we had this amazing company based out of Toronto called The Butcher Shop, and they did all of the practical effects in the movie. Most of the effects in the film, probably 90%, are all done in camera practically. And we have this spoilers. We have this big moment where one of our characters gets their feet burned, and it's that was such a wild prosthetic. And actually, what you're seeing is they put it on and it's at its fullest grossness, right? It's the last stage of it is what they put on. So through movie magic, we in computer effects, we take it back and make it look like regular feet. So when it's burning, it can reveal itself.
Oh, that's so interesting. I was really wondering how you guys did that effect.
Yeah.
One of the things I loved about this film was the world. It felt so rich. Can you tell me a little bit about crafting that world from the page and then getting it to show up on screen?
We took about 15 years of redrafting and rewriting versions of this movie. We came up with it in film school in 2010 or 11.
We're slow writers. We write one word at a time.
But there's probably 20 or 30 different, not drafts, different complete versions of this movie. So realistically, we'd written so much that you would almost be able to have a prequel to the story that we see. So it's the world existed to us. So anything that gets mentioned, offhand, is almost referencing a different version of the movie. Wow. We come in at the last minute that you can to understand the story, but there's probably a whole other movie that happens before it that you just don't get to see. So it feels as if you're coming into a season finale instead of the first movie.
It absolutely does feel like that. Are you planning to make any of those other movies?
I would love to.
Yeah. Really, obviously, of course, it depends on, obviously if people like the movie, that's a big part, but, there's financial stuff that would need to happen.
Of course.
But it would be our dream. We have 2 Volience sequels that we've thought about for as long as we thought about this movie, including one that's shot on 16 millimeter and it's black and white, and it's just a chase movie through either the streets of Tokyo or
Shanghai, maybe.
Or Shanghai, or if we couldn't do that because we're Canadian, we were just just through the streets of Montreal.
Or it's Vancouver.
So.
But I wanted to ask about the world building, the set design, and just the incredible costumes and aesthetic you crafted. How did that come together?
Yeah, so we have this amazing production designer named Natasha Irk, and she, with her partner, art director, Jamie Hillstone, this was their first movie that they ever did, that they were ever in charge of. And luckily, we were sort of similar age and grew up listening and liking similar movies. So it was really easy to just talk to them and give them the references of where I was coming from. Because it wasn't just movies that helped me think of the aesthetic of this world. It was a lot of music stuff. And it was not even just hardcore punk stuff. It was things like My Chemical Romance. I'm a huge fan of Gerard Way. And all of the sort of world building that Gerard Way has done with that band and those records. So, we were looking at comic book art and album covers and all kinds of stuff. And, it was really a credit to them though, for this being their first film and working with a really low budget and having, cause we're outside so much as well in this movie. And, there's nothing in frame that you ever see that isn't completely designed by them, whether it's like flyers in the background or graffiti or like it's all like that tunnel. I don't know if you know, you guys won't understand, but there's a scene that takes place in a tunnel. All of that graffiti, like that tunnel was already tagged, but they went and re-tagged it with world-specific things. So when you look at that wall, there's all kinds of like Easter eggs that are actually just like about the movie on the wall. So shout out to them.
That makes sense because the aesthetic is so strong and it really has that 80s gritty movie feeling. It feels like you're watching one of those films. However, something that I noticed that is different from those 80s films is that your characters are really, really well developed. Especially, I would say, your female characters. As a woman in film, I was like, wow, this is impressive. Can you tell me a little bit about writing those characters and then getting those performances out of the actors as well?
When we started writing it, it was kind of like influenced by things like Reservoir Dogs or Pulp Fiction, where it's like traditionally just all male casts doing gangster type stuff. We had kind of a breakthrough at one point and changed one of the characters to a woman. And it kind of caused the cascade that allowed a lot of other characters to also be changed over, in their gender. And not a lot else about the characters needed to change because, as we all know, women and men are kind of very similar people.
We're people.
Women are people too.
It really was just the characters were written as characters, and who was cast to play them would be interchangeable.
Wow.
We really just changed things. Like, you know, there'd be like little moments where you'd like just change it based on, you know, like just like a gender thing. But also that's the other thing that I think is exciting about this film too, is that it's kind of like a gender fluid film.
It is.
Like even like, and it was important for us as well because, you know, there's a version of this that like very much just is like that sort of traditional kind of, you know, we could almost like call it conservative, like man saves girl movie. But even the dynamic of like what that relationship is, of like what that romance is, of like when we meet them, it's like Henry loves Charlotte and Charlotte loved Henry. But where does Charlotte stand now? She doesn't need this man at all. And actually, the whole movie, she's trying to get away from this man. It's only until, you know, I don't want to spoil it, but, you know, there's these things. So it's like, you know, there's like, that was something as it was revealing itself to us. It wasn't something we initially were thinking of at all. But as it sort of came up, we started to realize it was like, oh, like we're actually making maybe a more interesting movie than we originally even had conceived. And so we started just like really leaning into it. And I'm glad that like, you know, it seems like a lot of people are taking that away from it and like seeing that in it. And it's very cool to us because, you know, we love this kind of movie, like these gangster movies or whatever. But, you know, like some of the most gangster shit that happens in this movie is not from who you would think it would come from. So, I found it very surprising in a great way, and I genuinely love this film. So thank you guys so much for answering my questions and for being here today. Congratulations. Appreciate you guys.